just heading out around Prayer Rock now. It's supposed to look like someone praying. Heading out of Dutch Harbour. We spent about a day and a half in there, and it was actually really lovely. It was actually quite dangerous getting through all these passes in the Aleutian Islands. You know, the chain of islands separates the Pacific to the Bering Sea. Apparently the height difference between the two bodies of water can be up to like 6 feet, and that creates crazy rips of current through with the tides. Some of the currents can get up to 12 knots apparently. And so we're sitting here reading all these manuals and stuff, and we're going to meet up with a fisherman around the corner here who's going to give us a bit more local inside information. Just you got to get through at just the right time and avoid the right places, and a bit scary actually, but I'll be glad when we get through the last of the passes and then we're kind of just on the coast of Alaska instead. Well, as they say, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. That was literally 10 minutes ago. Beautiful mountains, and now it's just all vanished and foggy and grey. So we just finished talking to a local fisherman, and he said, you know, with the tides and the currents and things, we've timed it pretty well here on the slack tide, and then it'll start to accelerate and suck us through the pass in about an hour, and then we kind of snake along the bottom for a while. Then when we try and nip into the next island to get in there tonight, could be 5 knots of current but going with us, so that'll be all right. Well, we made it out through the first pass. Lots of crazy currents and weird whirlpools, and you can feel the boat being sucked this way and spun that way, and big kelp piles, like kelp floating on the water. But now we're in the Pacific. We're in the North Pacific, same ocean as Australia. Pretty sure if we headed a course pretty much straight that way, we'd end up in Australia. But we're now going along, and we're going to scoot in through this next little passageway here to tuck around the back of an island where we're going to try and shelter out some bad wind that's coming for a couple of days, and the current through there should be ripping at a moment at about 5.5 knots, so we've got to make sure we stay clean and in the middle.
Look, you can even see the difference. On this side it's dull grey Bering Sea, and on the other side it's beautiful blue Pacific.
Well, we're in the strait now, and the current's really just sucking us through. We've been gone from about 4 knots to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 knots. Now we're doing 10.5 knots. Ripping along this way. It's alright, you're doing good, you're doing good. Doing good. Almost down. So we're finally at the end of our first day sail along the Aleutians, and it's about 20 minutes to midnight. It's been a long hard day getting here with all these crazy tidal rips and currents and everything. And we got into this snug little anchorage, not fantastic holding, on rocks, lots of kelp, and then downloaded the weather chart for the next couple of days, and basically it suddenly gets stronger, crazy strong, and where we are now is going to cop 30 knots, what the grid file says. So in real life that's going to be at least about 40 knots. We just can't be sure that the anchor would hold in that kind of wind, so that'll be terrifying, and we'd drag straight onto the shore. So unfortunately there's no other choice really around here where we can hide, except for going another 70 miles further on through another rip. But the tides are right, so if we left now, having been here for just long enough to have dinner, we should get to the beginning of the rip just when it's starting to rip the right direction. There'll be a bit of wind and waves against tide and all that kind of stuff, but we better leave now, because if we even get like 4 hours sleep, which would be lovely, then it's starting to get a little bit late for the tides, and also that wind is just going to get stronger and stronger straight in our face. It's just one of those sucky things you've got to choose. As much as you love to stay here, it'd be a silly thing to do. What do you think about it?
I'm absolutely bugging, and I was so looking forward to spending the night here and the next few days here and exploring this beautiful area, but I guess if it's the safest thing to do, then we've got to do it. But it just sucks going through all these rips tides again during the night, and the shipping lanes and heaps of other scary things to look out for, and always so much kelp around. And we'll still be motoring most of the way as well into headwind. But I guess it gives us safer protection for when the really strong winds come.
We slowed down a little bit before and we were trying to work out why, and just looked over the back and we were trailing all this kelp. Some of it was on the self-steering gear oar, but some of it was actually wrapped around the back bit of the propeller, like kind of opening it, just trailing back there. So I got our happy captain pole. I managed to kind of go in there and hook it and bring it up. Quite amazingly thick. It sort of looks like the propeller's kind of chopped it. But it's just like strong as rope. Really tough.
Can you believe they were having salmon for breakfast? Unbelievable. So the trip here actually wasn't that bad at all. It took quite some time, but we saw some whales and some other interesting things. But when we got in, we actually saw about 10 or so, when we got into the harbour, sorry, we saw about 10 or so other fishing boats. And they kind of called us up on the radio and they gave us some salmon, heaps of salmon, and they invited us over for dinner. It's such a beautiful place and a wonderful, very social place to be as well.
While we were on board having dinner on one of the fishing boats last night, looking out of the windows, one of the guys was like, "Oh, there's a grizzly bear over on the shore." And we're like, "Oh my god, look," and get binoculars, and we just wanted to drop everything and run and get our cameras and go on shore and take photos, but polite, we couldn't, so we just sat there eating dinner. And now this morning we've jumped ashore and we've come up here looking around for bears, kind of terrified that we're going to find one as well. But yeah, apparently this place is full of them.
So you can see Teleport down there with about 10 other fishing boats, so clearly this is one of the best harbours to be in to wait out some pretty bad weather.
One of the fishing boat families came on shore and we went for a walk together along the shoreline, and I actually spotted up ahead a big grizzly bear walking towards us, and I was like, "Look, there's a bear!" Everyone was like, "Whoa, okay, we'll walk back the other way," because there's kind of like a cliff line running the shore, so we couldn't get out of its way, so we just kept on walking this way away from it and to try to get back up onto the hill behind us, where we could then walk along past it and hopefully it would just go past down below. But then when we turned around and walked up onto the hill, the bear had the same idea and kind of just scampered up the hill right in front of us, and there was a really awkward moment where it was like, bear right there, and yeah. It's
really actually quite scary and daunting going ashore. We've seen so many bear footprints and the grass is up to our shoulders in length. Like it'd be so easy for a bear just to pop out of nowhere or to accidentally surprise a bear, and there seem to be quite a few around.
Yeah. We came across a bit where one of the bears go to sleep as well, had this big kind of nest area where it had just been sleeping the night before, or like, yeah.
So just the other day we went out on a fishing trip with some of the cool fishermen that have been inviting us around for dinners and things, and we managed to catch so many different fish, so many, I think they're called bomber rockfish or something.
Yeah, kind of like some kind of sea bass thing, and they just have all these poles and you kind of chuck it in the water and jig it up and down. It was so easy to catch them. We just had like huge numbers of fish and all had a big feast on one of the fishing boats that night. So friendly, so lovely, really, really nice. What are you doing?
Reading.
Why?
Because it's blowing about 40 knots outside and it's pretty scary a little bit and uncomfortable.
Just sitting here staring at our anchor watch, which shows, it's supposed to show if we're dragging or not, because it's blowing literally 40 knots out there. It's crazy, and we seem to be dragging about 1 meter every hour, which doesn't really make sense, but we've now dragged about 10 meters. Don't know how you can drag 10 meters without breaking free, but we're lurching around everywhere and scary. So the storm, when it finally did come over us, got pretty strong. It got up to, we saw about 46 knots on the wind speed. The other fishing boat said they saw 55 knots. And yeah, we were just begging the whole time that our anchor wouldn't drag. But the fishing boats were lovely and sort of said, if you start dragging, just give us a yell on the radio and we'll come alongside and grab you. And they've got big powerful engines and they can put us back and then we can drop the anchor again. But Yeah, we practiced motoring straight into the wind when it was blowing about 35 knots. We could actually get into it, so that was reassuring as well. But yeah, really unpleasant, about 2 days of crazy wind.
Yeah, very scary. Oh, wow.
One of our fisherman friends just gave us a sockeye salmon. This is like the best salmon you can get. Look how red this meat is. Best quality salmon ever. No wonder we're so well stuck to the ocean floor. We're stuck to half of it. Where is our anchor? Ah, there it is.